People can tell a lot about you by your presence, but many times they can grasp so much more about you by your absence. Now, this is part one of our two-part conversation with our guest, Pastor Kayla Carter. Let's talk about it.
In today's cruel culture and wounded world, you deserve some good news.
And Jesus has taken the punishment for every single person that's in this room. He put the curse in reverse. And just like Adam turned a garden into a grave, Jesus turned a grave into a garden. So now it's just grace upon grace upon grace and favor upon favor upon favor. But we're still here. And we're still standing. And we got Jesus, so we've got the victory.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to PreacherThink, where I take thoughts downloaded from God and His Word and upload them to you via the lens of grace and kingdom. I am the creator and the host of PreacherThink, Chad Joyner, and I am excited to share with you today what it is that we're going to talk about. But before we begin sharing, I have got an amazing guest to introduce to some and to present to others. She is the campus co-pastor at Calvary Church Wallace, where she serves alongside her husband in a dynamic church built on grace with a mission to declare and demonstrate the gospel to everyone, every day, everywhere. It is a church that is built on diversity, generosity, belonging, fun, being able to reach folks locally, and via being a part of a multi-locational body, and a church built on excellence and creativity. This guest is big on family. She's a prophetic voice in my life. She is my pastor, but most importantly, she is my friend. Joining me today on PreacherThink is none other than the singing, songwriting, prophetic, dynamic package known as none other than Pastor Kayla Carter. Pastor Kayla, say hello to the viewers here and let them know how you feel today.
That was an amazing intro. I love that. That was great. It's kind of weird hearing all those wonderful things about yourself, and you're like, wait, who is that he's talking about? No, it's great. I am so excited. Been waiting a long time to do this. So I've been looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what we unpack today.
Wow. Well, Pastor Kayla, we are excited about having you today. And yes, indeed, we have got something that we are going to impact that I think is extremely important in the body of Christ where we are right now. And here's the thought that I want to springboard from. People can tell a lot about you by your presence, but many times they can grasp so much more about you by your absence. So we're going to talk about this ministry of presence, and I want to see if I can set the stage for us to dive into some conversation about the core of this thought, which is the importance of being intentional to be attentive in every situation or being present in the moment. Now, this is a principle that affects nearly everyone, and when we're distracted, it not only has relational effects, but it also has physical effects on our bodies. For example, the physical effects of being distracted in a prolonged manner by electronic devices are so detrimental that doctors are diagnosing people with chronic neck and spine problems every day all over the planet. Why is that? Well, we have a huge problem, Pastor Kayla, with looking up from our phones and other devices to engage in meaningful conversation. Also, our relationships are damaged because in our pursuit of money and a lot of times power and respect, we've become slaves to the distraction of overworking. In some cases, so many people have become what we have deemed in this culture as workaholics. And many of our familial and marital relationships, along with our friendships, have eroded. And then by the off chance that we actually decide to engage our shame over damaged relationships, when we find that the intentionality to heal in that area with all parties involved is going to be difficult, that we're going to have hard conversations to heal in those damaged relationships. Many times we opt out because we figure out it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, and we begin medicating our pain with mindless, meaningless things like drugs and alcohol, and social media, just to waste time, because we've lost the art of being attentive and engaging in conversation to solve problems and to manage tensions, especially in this busy monstrosity of the technology age. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the advances and the advantages that technology brings us. It's okay to have technology, but it is not okay for technology or any other distraction to have us. And I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I mean, this is just a moment of transparency. I'm as guilty as anybody else of getting massively distracted in this way, among others. And whether it's social media or anything else, it's definitely not okay to be so distracted that the most cherished relationships we should have, that they're seemingly broken beyond repair. So with all of that being said, what's going through your mind as you hear the thought we're using to springboard into this conversation today, that people can tell a lot about your presence, they can tell a lot about you by your presence, but maybe they can grasp even much more about you by your absence, or when you're absent-minded or being distracted? Tell me what's going through your mind as you hear that.
I think while you were sitting here talking about, there's a few things that were sticking out to me, and I just kind of, how you go on a train of thought, and I just immediately just picture a family sitting in a den, in a living room, and you all are there. You're all present. You're all together. But if everybody is doing their own thing on their device, or tuned into the television, or whatever that may be, are you really there? And I mean, because you're somewhere else. And I think that for a lot of us, we need a few minutes, like maybe we've had a stressful day, to just sit there and not think. Okay. And that's, what we do with television. That's what we do with social media. That's what we do whenever we are trying to just decompress all the things that have happened throughout the day. And so you're sitting there and you just mindlessly scroll through things, or you mindlessly just sit there in front of and as the television or whatever the distraction is. But the problem is that there's so much availability of distraction. The distraction is just literally so available that you have to fight. It's harder to just, instead of just, it is harder to stay engaged. Honestly, it's just, I'm finding it as the years progress, and I look at myself, I was talking to another mom the other day, and I said, 10 years ago, social media wasn't like it is now. I never got on social media. I just kind of, I was there with my kids. I was there with whatever I was doing throughout the day. I was there doing it. I wasn't distracted from what I was engaging in that day, in conversations or whatever. And I've just looked at myself over the years, and just the progression of how society has shifted so much.
Yes.
Distraction of all kinds. I mean, everything. And it's almost like, like a runaway train or something that is just getting more, it's like it's going down a hill, runaway train, and it's just picking up more momentum, more momentum. And it's almost like, when is this gonna implode? When is this gonna stop? It's just like information in your face all the time. And our families and our relationships and the people that matter the most are sitting with us in that living room, but we're not there. We're not engaging. We're not talking. We're not having intimacy. We're not, intimate conversations. And I mean, we're guilty of it just like everybody else. We try to, I try to have some really good really good talk, at least 15 to 20 minutes a day. But I have to fight for it. I have to
Right.
fight,
Right.
and it's just not, it's getting less and less easier as time goes on, I think. And I just, that train, that runaway train, oh, when's it gonna stop? Does it stop?
Yeah.
Will it? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Wow. I love what you just said, because to sum it up, it's like we've got to choose to fight for the intentionality to have engaging conversation in relationships that we value the most, and not value anything else above those things. Any situation that's going on around us, any issue that's happening in our life, any circumstance, work, technology, anything that is a distraction or anything that intrudes or impedes on the intimacy of our relationships, our marital relationships, our family relationships. We've got to make a choice. We get to make choices. Everybody talks about, man, I just want to be in the will of God. But a lot of times it's like believers need to know you're already in the will of God. Yeah. But every single day, every single moment of every single day, you get to make choices. And this is one of those things where it's like, you get the opportunity to make a choice, to be intentional, to say, we're going to set aside as a family, as a husband and a wife, as parents and kids, to be 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We're going to engage in intentional conversation, because we spend so much more, an exorbitant amount of time outside of those 15, 20 or 30 minutes engaged in things that are far less important anyway. So yes, we've got to fight for those intentional moments.
Yeah. And we've been making steps that are in our home to just do some of those things, just practical things. One of my favorite things, my literal favorite time of day, is early morning. And so I'm a morning person. Not everybody in my house is, but I am. And so I get up and I exercise, and then I come home, and for that little amount of time, I have 30 minutes before the kids come downstairs and, they get ready for the school day. They're upstairs getting ready, but I have this little 30-minute time, and that's for me. That's my time. But then the kids come downstairs at 7:15 every morning, and from 7:15 to 7:30, we sit there, and we just started doing this about a year ago, and it has made the biggest difference in my family. But we've just sat there. We'll read a book together. We read the Bible together, but we might do a devotional together. But me and the kids just sit there. Me and the two older kids, not Roman. Roman would just absolutely destroy. My 3-year-old would destroy the moment, I think. But with the older two kids, and then Brad prays over them, and it's 15 minutes, but it's like it has made mine and my kids' relationship so much richer. So we're able to just tackle issues, or and a lot of them, like I said, they come downstairs and they're not always really eager to go to school, or they're not really eager to face the day or whatever they got going on. But it's a chance for me to teach and say, look, we've got to change. We've got to choose joy today. We've got to choose. Yes. We've got to choose that, and it's such a teaching moment, but it's just an intimate moment. Some of the stuff that we've shared, some of the things we've read together, and just the prayers, the silliness, we laugh. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
The funniest things that happen are at the table in the morning when we're having our little devotional. I mean, hilarious things. And that it just sets the tone for the whole rest of the day. And then the other thing that that I've tried to start doing is being at home, or being wherever they are when they get home from school.
Well, Pastor Kayla, let me stop you right there, because in a little bit, we're going to hop into some approaches, and I want to come back to what you just said and what you're about to lean into, because I want you to give people some practical handles. But before we get there, I jumped
the gun already. I've just jumped right into
No, you're good. Before we get there, I want to continue to kind of maybe diagnose and unpack this problem a little bit so we can walk into the solution. And I love that you're already leaning into something that I think is so, and you've used the word already, those intimate moments that you've had with your family. And that leads us right into what I want to talk about next, is just time of intimacy and how important that is, because time is an entity that we really can't control, but we can control our intentionality to give attention to others when we engage in conversation, in interaction, or in an experience together. So here's what I'd like to hear from you on: what does giving attention in a conversation or an interaction or an experience with another person look like to you? What does that look like? I mean, for example, in Luke chapter 10, the story about Mary and Martha, a very well-known passage of scripture in the Bible. You've got the two sisters, and they are literally doing two different things. You've got Martha, who is so consumed with hosting Jesus that when Jesus comes into the house to spend some intimate, intentional time with them, that Mary sits at his feet to listen, to commune with him, to conversate with him, to talk with, just, hey, I just want to glean from you, Jesus, and hear from, and Martha is like, Jesus, why don't you tell my sister to get up and come help me work? She is so consumed with hosting that she doesn't even recognize that she is housing this person, in Jesus, that she gets the opportunity to sit down and have intimacy with. And Jesus, in a loving way, just speaks the truth in love and rebukes her and says, Martha, this good thing that Mary's doing by sitting at my feet and just enjoying me, that won't be taken away from her. Yeah. Don't be so consumed about what you feel like you've got to do that you don't sit down and enjoy what I've already done for you. You know what I'm saying? So again, talk about, what does giving attention in conversation and interaction or an experience with another person, what's that look like to you?
Well, whenever you said that reminded me of I don't know who I was speaking to, but there was the ladies at our church, and I just started talking to them about mastering their moments, and knowing what moments you were stepping into. And because there's different times, we can pass somebody and say, good morning, how you doing? But then there's times where you're like, you've got to read the moment. You've got to take notice of what is actually happening. And one of the things, and Mary did, she knew that her time was limited. She knew that this was a moment that I'm not going to always have. And I have to take this moment while I'm here. And so obviously we know all that story, and we know the Martha and everything. We don't hate on Martha. We love Martha. You got to have both. You got to have all of it. But one of the things it made me think of a time when Brad, my husband, Pastor Brad, he was Bishop Tony Miller, one of the greatest voices that I've heard in my time. He was on a call. Brad, I kept trying to call Brad, and I kept trying to call him, trying to get up with him. And I couldn't get up with him. And I said, and I was like, that was just very unusual for me to call and him not answer or text or whatever. And he didn't. And he called me back like an hour later, and he's like, I'm so sorry you couldn't find me. He said, I was talking to Bishop Tony, and I was just and I didn't want to get off the phone with him. And I said, let me stop you right there. I said, that was a moment, Brad. I said, I don't know how to explain this to you, but you're not always going to have that. And I said, and you need to take that phone call. And I said, anytime that man calls you, I said, you need to stop what you're doing. I said, you need to talk and be very intentional. I said, because you're not always going to have those times. And I didn't know it at the time, but just a few months later, he passed away and transitioned to heaven.
Wow.
And I just that moment, and I'm just, those moments were just so precious. and not all those not every moment, sure, not every moment every day is going to be like that, but we have to know and be able to discern what moments need some special attention and attentiveness,
Come
and
on.
some encouragement, and like what does our moment look like? I mean, we've had several speakers to come here before, and it's been wonderful, and we've loved it. And we had I remember a friend of mine telling me about this story, and that she told me about how this this church had been waiting for this guy to come speak to them, and just they had prepared, they had done all these things, and the guy came in and was like, and he preached and he left, and the people were like, okay, that's great, but we've been waiting for you. We've been wanting to talk to you and meet you and see you,
Right.
hear from you. And, we wanted to know the person of you. And that person, just didn't kind of read that moment. They didn't know that church had prepared and waited for their arrival all these years. They had heard him speak places, and they were like, oh, he's coming. And they had prepared, and then he came, and it was like, okay, let me go drop whatever and bye, I'm gone, got on a flight and was in and out. And so that is what sparked the whole mastering your moments situation. And I just think as a society and as people, when we're sitting down with people, you can regurgitate everything that somebody says, but you don't hear them. You're not listening. You don't hear a word that they're saying. Yes, I could sit here, and if you started speaking, I could probably sit here and repeat everything that you say, but I don't know that I've necessarily heard you. And I think that that's just where we are as a society. I think we're hearing things, but I don't think we're hearing things. I don't think we're there. And I don't think we're like really sitting down. I don't think we're making any heart connections. And I just think that, going back to the distraction thing, we just have so much availability of so many other things that it's really just taken our attention and our heart other places. And so when we're sitting across from people, we hear what they're saying, but we're so busy to get to the next thing.
Right.
That we miss what's happening right in front of us.
Wow.
And, and I think, I tell my husband, my kids all the time, I'm like, hey, I'm here. Hey, are you here with us? Are you with us? I'm like, or I'll snap my fingers or something, to try to get attention. And they know exactly what that means. That means put your phone down and listen to what I'm saying. Hear mama or hear me.
Wow.
And,
Right.
So, it's just, I just think that, the heart of really being able to discern where we are, like where you are, like what does this person mean something? So I need to be intentional about listening to them and hearing them and just being in the moment. So.
Wow. You just used 3 phrases throughout that entire just talk about being present in the moment that I loved. Mastering your moment. You have to be able to understand the gravitas of certain moments that you're in, and understand that this is seemingly a once in a lifetime opportunity that I really, really need to grasp a hold of, whether that's with, your 13-year-old child that's about to go through puberty, or your 40, 50, 60-year-old bishop that's dropping nuggets of wisdom on you that literally says to you, you need to pick up what I'm putting down right here, whatever the case might be. I love that. And then you said heart connections. Not so much head connections or mind connections, because we can see the word, we can hear the words coming out of people's mouths, but are our hearts really connecting to what they're saying so that we can honor what they're saying? And like I said earlier, so, and like Pastor Brad has taught us that Is this something that is this a problem that I can solve, or is this a tension I need to manage? What type of corresponding action can I respond with as our hearts connect in what you're saying? So you're saying that, and then again, just that word, being intentional about what it is that we're talking about, just being intentional. And here it is, the word discernment. We got to have some discernment of the moment to say, wow, this is a moment where this person I'm hearing, they need encouragement. This person they may need a word from the Lord, whatever the case might be. This person is looking for something to fill a void in the way of healing in their life. They need to hear about, so they need to know that I'm actually listening to what it is that they're saying. I need to be able to discern that moment so I can speak into the situation that we're talking about. I love that. I love that. Here's where I want to go next, Pastor Kayla. Psalm 46:1, another well-known passage of scripture. We love the Psalms, as you know, the songs of David, a lot of them. And Psalm 46:1 says that God is an ever-present help in the times of trouble. I mean, that's so important, ever-present. Hebrews 13:5 also says, I'll never leave you and I'll never forsake you. Since this is true of God in relation to us and we're his representatives in the earth, doesn't it behoove us, the body of Christ, to genuinely display this type of attention to all kinds of people, being ever present in the times of trouble like God was, like, being somebody who, no matter what happens to family, friends, or whatever, they can look to us and they know, man, that person right there, they'll never leave me. They'll never turn their back on me, no matter what's going on in the situation. So just wouldn't it behoove us to be those same sort of people in the earth, since, Christ lives in us and we live in him and we're his ambassadors in the earth?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what you were saying a few minutes, what did you say? You said something a few minutes ago, just in this conversation, and you were just talking about you were talking about what did you say? But I've forgotten now. But I think that everything that we do, everything that Christ, everything is a reflection.
Yes.
Everything's a reflection. So whatever is going on in the kingdom, we display that because we're a reflection. Whatever's happening in heaven is what we're supposed to display, just like a mirrored, expression. And so in heaven, think about it. You think about if our relationships were all, let me come and tell you all my problems. Oh, that's what you were talking about. You're talking about how if you're talking about expressing problems or being there in ever-present help.
Yeah.
But what if it's just not even help? What if it's like just being ever present, not us in our relationships, but
come on.
Just being ever present and sharing joys and sharing victories and triumphs and listening and just being like attentive and just sharing life. I think about this all the time. I think about if my relationship with God is all me coming to him and always needing help, always, God, please, I'm just this, I'm just that. And I'm telling him all my problems and all the things and all my ailments,
right,
and all the things that I've got going on. And I'm doing all the talking, I'm doing all the things, and I just talk. And then I get up and leave. If I did that with my husband, think about what relationship that would be. If I sat there, what if me and Brad were going to get married, and I just went to Brad, let's say once a month, and I said, hey, blah, 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 blah. Just told him all these problems, and told him all these things that was going on in my life. And I said, okay, bye, and just got up and left. We would have never gotten married.
Right.
We didn't have a relationship. We didn't have intimacy. We never talked. We never shared heart-to-heart conversations. And I think that everything in our relationship with God, it is just like a flow. So when this relationship is just one-sided, then these relationships are going to be one-sided. So
Yes.
our heavenly relationship has to flow one way so that these relationships this way can flow.
Yes.
And so if my relationship with God is talking, but listening, hearing, conversation, I call it my Jesus coffee time. You know, just literally having conversations with Jesus. And like, I pour a cup of coffee and I sit at my table and I sit there and I just talk like I am like Jesus there, because I know he is, you know, and so I'm just like, well, I got this going on today, you know, and we're just talking like we're sitting on the front porch or something.
Yes.
And I think that those are heart connections, because he's got a sense of humor. He's funny. I mean, all the things that is everything that this relationship is, everything that God is, we are a reflection of that in the earth. And so the relationship that we have has to reflect what's going on up here. Our heart connection here has to reflect our heart connections out there. And then I think these relationships will get better whenever this gets better. Think about
Yes.
If you're scared, you're not going to share your heart. If you're thinking somebody's judging you, you're not going to share your heart. You're not going to have intimacy. You're not going to have. And so I think that the reflection, I think that heaven, we have to reflect heaven in the earth.
Want to share the good news? You can support PreacherThink by sharing it with everyone using the share button. You can stay connected to PreacherThink via Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and various podcast streaming platforms. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about what the gospel has done for you, message us or leave them in the comment section. You can also email us at preacherthink@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in.